we are. Now that caught me by surprise. It's another week. It's another date with us, with Brittany and then with me for cocktails and conversation. Can you believe it? It is week 15. And as I have stayed rooted to my spot, and as the 21 Club's resident mixologist, Mark Tubridy, has been cleaved away from his beloved 21 Club and has been rooted behind his bar in Brooklyn, Brittany and has somehow been managing to jet set around the United States of America and provide us with a different glamorous backdrop every week. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning.
Good afternoon, good evening to you. What number backdrop is this? This might be 5 or 6. I thought you were blown away by my new backdrop. It's got a very wild feel to it, don't you think? I got a giraffe over my shoulder.
I think it's rather Paris Saint-Germain, sort of 7e arrondissement, a 6e arrondissement maybe. Very glamorous, but you're actually in Del Mar.
I am in Del Mar, back from New Jersey, was at Monmouth Park for the Haskell last Saturday, which looked like it was going to be a walkover as Authentic is coming around the turn. Those ears pricked, and New York traffic made it so thrilling. It was really nice to have some fans and owners back at the track too. It just adds an energy. You and I have been talking about this, that we can't really create without them.
Yeah. So how many people were there?
I think that they sold around 1,500 tickets. It started with 500, and then they allotted 500 more, and then there was 500 tickets sold to the Blue Grotto restaurant, and then they also allowed owners. So I know that the My Racehorse group, who owns part of Authentic, they had about 185 people. They all were given masks as they came in, had to remind them, if Authentic wins, social distancing, please. But it was nice to see. It was more the diehard fans that definitely came out to Monmouth Park. But it was fun. You have a big race overseas this weekend, though. Champ.
Oh, yeah, we do. We do. I mean, thank goodness she's there, because it's the joint smallest field for the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes since its inception in the 1950s. I mean, it's actually quite a new race by the standards of, great races in the UK. But in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was really the midsummer sporting showpiece. It doesn't quite have that prestige anymore, but it's still very important. Enable's won it the last twice. She'd become the first horse ever to win it 3 times. Dahlia won it twice in the 1970s. Swain won it twice in the 1990s. And Enable's bidding to win it for a 3rd consecutive occasion. She only faces 3 rivals, but all her 3 rivals come from Aidan O'Brien's stable, reminiscent of the 2009 Juddmonte International, when the Great See the Stars took on just 3 rivals, and all 3 were trained by Aidan O'Brien, and he beat them all. The difference this time is that all 3 of them are Group 1 winners over 1.5 miles or more. So she's got.
So I'm going to give you a plug.
Challenge.
I listened to your podcast the other day. Actually, I've listened to your podcast quite a bit, and I really love it. And I'm not just saying that because you're my friend, but it's easy to consume because it's only about 20 minutes long. And, when we're talking on this show, we go an hour and a half. So it's easy to just take it in. And I loved what was the title of the Enable one? Is this the Madness of the King George? What was that title?
Is this really the Madness of King George? Did you see what I did there?
Yes, I did. I liked it.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it's the nouvelle cuisine of the podcast arena. Small, but, easy to digest, hopefully. And you're full of complex flavors.
I loved it. Much like my hazy IPA, which is my drink of choice tonight. And it is full of complex flavors. Well, all right, what's your drink of choice? Or are you, because it's 11?
No, I did have this was a Chassagne Montrachet red, but it's now gone. So I was sharing it with my father-in-law, who's here this evening. So I'm now just drinking water.
Well, perhaps
with any luck.
A couple of weeks ago, you had some champagne just magically appear, much like Bo Derek had a cocktail appear on our show. Maybe that will happen for you. Complex flavors, I like that as a horse name.
Yeah, I like it too. It's not as good as muddled, whatever it was. What was it?
Gentle muddle.
Gentle muddle. But there he is.
You caught me mid-laugh right there. we had gentle muddle. I think we decided against forceful muddle. I'm not sure about that one.
PG on this show. Got a little off the rails last week.
It did a little bit, but Nick is already off to his old tricks. I don't know. We're going to keep an eye on him. I'm going to be on my best behavior. But no, I'm excited for this week's show. We got some great cocktails, some that actually are very near and dear to my heart. So I guess we'll get into that in a minute. But how are you guys doing? Everything good?
All good.
No complaints.
All good.
Yeah. Nick, did you get a haircut?
Next week, I had a fight with a lawnmower.
Well,
Nick,
you look good.
where are you going next weekend? Or
Next
this
week.
weekend? This week? Where are you going?
Next week, I'm going to Goodwood, which is only, admittedly, an hour and 20 minutes from my front door, but I'm there for 5 days. So I actually get to, hang on, that's better. I actually get to stay away for 4 days, which of course I don't like because I've been, lucky enough to be at home with my family since lockdown started. But given our normal kind of itinerant nature, there is something mildly exotic about the prospect of staying in a hotel, even if it's an hour from your front door for 4 days.
Well, do you know what sounds more exotic? You going camping. I heard you were going camping this weekend.
Yeah, that's camping in
this.
That's camping in the traditional sense of the word, as in pitching a tent in a field rather than performing on stage or anything similar. Although I'd be better suited to the latter than the former, no doubt. Yes, the idea of actually A, erecting the tent, and B, cooking foodstuffs without any ready gas or electric supply fills me with utter horror. But, they seem to enjoy it, so off we go.
I was going to say, you seem more of like a glamping type of guy, Nick. I could see you in your suits, maybe a reclining chair. I don't know, some sort of fancy.
There's no glamping involved, Mark. It's full on camping. It's a,
all right.
It's a hole in the floor and, paper if you're lucky.
We want photos for next week. Promise?
Not of that, presumably. Yeah. Yes. Promise. Should we give a shout out to some of our faithful, both of our faithful, who are with us this week? Dorian Dickinson's back. We're in full summer mode in week 15 with Mark Casse on deck and 2 great cocktails on the menu. You could almost be our publicist, Dorian. Jennifer Pinkerton Cook is back. She made a donation today to the Breeders' Cup COVID Relief Fund.
Thank you.
breederscup.com/donate. Alison Tarrant, Trisha Hill, Julie Ingle, Joan Ludlow, Josh Parker, though he needs his eyes testing, Jeff Hall, Patrick, Kim, Paulette, Kevin. They're all in the house tonight. It's fantastic.
So, the question is, Nick, what do we have in store for people for the next hour? Of course, we're minutes in and we're going to wait just a little bit to bring our guest in. But who do we have for this week?
We have a man who I didn't know until doing my research for this broadcast, episode 15 of Cocktails and Conversation, took out his trainer's license at the age of 17 in the late 1970s. When you think about how long he's been training and the generations he's spanned, it is gloriously right that he should have enjoyed such success so recently, and his career has just flourished, and he's now a trainer of 5 Breeders' Cup winners, and last year he trained 2 winners of classic races, the Preakness and the Belmont, and of course if he'd won the Kentucky Derby, if he'd won the Belmont Stakes this year, the first leg of the Triple Crown, he'd have been in that unique position of winning 3 consecutive Triple Crown races with 3 different horses. Sadly, it wasn't to be, but he is of course the one and only Mark Casse, and I can't wait to get him involved in the show because he produced one of my favorite moments in the last few years when Tepin won the Queen Anne Stakes at Royal Ascot.
And War of Will is probably one of my absolute favorite horses. It's hard not to root that horse on, but now he's breathing rare air as a dual Grade 1 winner on turf and on dirt. I can't wait to talk to Mark about that. But Mark, our mixologist, what are the 2 cocktails? Can you tease what we're making?
Yeah, we are doing a bourbon-based sangria, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that when we get to it. But sangria has a lot of significance for me. It was right there at the very beginning of my mixology career, so near and dear to my heart. And then we're going to be making a vodka-based take on Tom Collins, so a vodka Collins with some fresh raspberries, both super, super refreshing, really easy. And yeah, it's going to be great. Super excited.
Love sangria. Love.
Me too.
But it feels
so
like
easy to share too. Yeah.
It feels like a pain to make those sometimes. So I'm interested to see how you make it within this time period.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to show the easy approach because kind of like the Bloody Mary when we were talking about that, people get so creative. There are so many, different routes that you can go. But at the heart of it, it's sort of a basic formula. So we're going to talk about that, just the nuts and bolts that you need to really get a great sangria.
All right, we're going to have a drink now.
Let's do it.
We're going for it.
Let's go into it. All right.
Yeah.
So again,
Change
near
it
and dear
up.
to my heart, the reason why I love sangria is that it was the very first drink I ever learned how to make as a bartender. So back in 2009, I started off, as many bartenders do, as a bar back. So that's the guy that's bringing the ice, cutting the fruit, stocking the bar. And the very first task they gave me was to chop gallons upon gallons of fruit for sangria. Now, as you can imagine, this was not at the 21 Club, not a huge sangria place, but I was at an outdoor terrace restaurant in Midtown Manhattan. And we used to go through 50 to 100 pitchers of sangria on a busy Thursday or Friday night. Beautiful outdoor terrace. It was just bonkers. So I had to get really good at chopping that fruit and kind of fell in love with the drink. But it's, as I was saying, there are so many different variations. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about the sheer basics of it. And as I've done before, I'm going to kind of give you those amounts in terms of parts instead of ounces. So if you want, you can make a single, glass of sangria, but this works so well in pitchers. It's a communal drink. It's nice to share, even amongst family and friends. So I'm going to give you those parts to make it super, super easy. All right.
And so it's such a summertime drink, doesn't it, Mark?
It is. It is. And you know what? You can do so tonight we're going to be making red sangria, but it's so great with white wine as well. You want to kind of just vary the flavors sometimes, depending on which direction you're going to go. But it's kind of like a punch style of drink. Once you see the way that even I'm adding things here, I'm going to be a little less delicate in the measurements. We're kind of going off of rough ratios, but a good flavor balance is really what we're looking for. And then once you get it right, you can do it on huge, large scale portions. So when I was at that restaurant, I'm not joking, 5-gallon tubs. And that was my job to fill that up. And we went through it in about a night. So, but for that reason, I'm going to show you how to make a pitcher. But again, I'm giving you the parts so you can just do it as ounces. I'm going to be kind of doing larger portions here, but we're going to start off with our pitcher here. And the first thing we want to do is our fruits. So our chopped fruit. Now, kind of the mainstays of sangria fruit are really apples and oranges. I know that sounds like I'm making a joke or a pun, but that's actually the truth. So apples and oranges in roughly equal proportions is a good place to start off. And then you want to work in some fun seasonal fruit. So here I've got strawberries. I'm going to try to show you my little fruit medley there. But you can do a lot of fun stuff. Thank you. You can do fun stuff. You can do halves of grapes. Really, the possibilities are endless. But if we're looking for a classic combination, apples, oranges, and some strawberries, you're good to go. Now, just like I've done here, I've had to chop that fruit ahead of time, right? So one way of keeping that nice and fresh, we talk about this all the time with oxidation and with things being left out and kind of deteriorating in flavor. The best way to keep this fresh is just squeeze a little lemon juice over there, toss it around, and that's going to keep that bright flavor of the apples. You're not going to get any of the browning, and it's going to maintain the flavor. So that's the first step. I'm going to go ahead and do about 2 cups of fruit into our pitcher. If you're doing this per glass, I would say, just maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons, enough to kind of coat the bottom of the glass. You should be good to go. All right. So the fruit is essential. I should also note that you want a pretty small chop on the fruit because you want it to kind of flow with the drink. I'm sure we've all gotten a sangria at one point where it's like large chunks of apples and oranges that are kind of like hanging out at the bottom of the glass and you need a fork or a spoon to get it afterwards. I like it when the pieces of the fruit actually flow with the drink itself. At the end of the day, it's supposed to be a cocktail, not a fruit salad. So that's kind of the direction you're looking for on the size of the fruit itself.
So hang on. So you want, but if you have small fruit, then you'll end up drinking the fruit with the drink, right?
Well, you'll still be able to chew it. So that's kind of another aim for keeping the pieces small. It's not going to just you're not going to choke on it, but you're going to be able to chew it as you're sipping it. But the thing that you don't want is these large chunks of apples and oranges because they don't really do much in that sense. They're just kind of hanging out in the glass. Yeah. So I like a kind of like a small to medium chop is a good way to go. Now,
I start judging my sangria now on the size of the fruit within the cup.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's about function. It shows attention to detail. It shows that, people are really thinking about how the customer is going to enjoy the drink. Because otherwise you're kind of like, all right, it should get apples and oranges. You toss it in the glass or in the pitcher. But if it's not really doing much, it's not enhancing the experience. But we are going to talk a little bit later on how when you make your sangria is important because the fruit can have a whole other element to it depending on when you batch your sangria. I think some of you know what I'm hinting at there, but we'll get to that in just a minute. So when we think about the juices that we want to add, orange juice is a really classic juice to add. So here I've got about 4.5 ounces. If you're doing this per cocktail, I would do a 3/4 part. So start with 3/4 of an ounce fresh orange juice makes a huge difference. If you're in a pinch, you can go ahead and use, Tropicana or something. But if you have the time, if you have the oranges, go fresh. It's always best. So we're going to pour that right on top of our fruits.
Fresh is best.
Fresh is best. And now you're going to see this process is going to speed up here. We're not, it is a science, but this is kind of like an art form as well. We want to have fun with the sangria. Even the way that we drink it is communal. It's fun. It's sharing. It's like the family style, almost Italian food of cocktails, if that makes any sense. So we are going to add a half part of simple syrup. So if you're doing it per glass, do a half ounce. I'm going to do a full 3 ounces, but remember I've got like 6 portions in here. All right. Now that's one part of our sweetness. We always want to add some form of triple sec. So of course I always use Cointreau. I like that high-end brand of triple sec. But kind of to recap so far, we've got our fruit, you've got some sort of simple syrup, a sweetener, your orange juice, and triple sec, and you're getting a really good base to a great sangria here. So I'm going to do the same amount that I did for the simple syrup. So a half part. That's going to be 3 ounces for me. Now my wife actually had a pretty long day at work, so there's a reason why I'm doing a pitcher and not a glass for you guys. I think she needs a couple glasses of sangria. We're going to enjoy that afterwards.
Such a good husband. Very
I try. I do my best. I compensate for, I guess, my weaknesses with cocktails. So
you trying to get her drunk?
No. Just relax. All right. Now, traditionally, when we want to fortify our sangria, so you want to make it a little bit stronger than just wine, right? So a traditional spirit to use is brandy, because ultimately brandy is a fruit-based spirit. So it makes sense with the fruit and the wine. But we're going to do something a little different today. We love our bourbon on Cocktails and Conversations. So we're going to be using our Maker's Mark bourbon. It's going to add some vanilla and oak tones that are going to kind of complement the fruit. As opposed to just mirroring the fruit, we're going to complement it. We're going to get some really nice richness to this sangria. I've actually already measured this. This is 8 ounces. I'm going to pour this, 9 ounces rather. I'm going to pour this directly in here. For those of you making the individual cocktails at home, that's 1.5 ounces. So don't go for full 9 ounces in yours. You see, I'm getting wild here. This is not the normal Mark Casse. Mark Casse usually is just measuring everything out with eyedroppers. I don't know. I need one of those temperature checks.
I don't even recognize you anymore.
I know. But
you seem very frisky this evening.
Maybe it's residual from last week. It took me a week to kind of, balance out. But so funny story is we actually kept the birthday celebration going over the weekend. And we went out, very social distancing, but we went out to my cousin's bar in Far Rockaway called Bungalow Bar. And we had a great table. Again, social distancing, they were very responsible. But believe it or not, they had a bourbon sangria on the menu. So when we kind of came around the corner on this week, thinking about what refreshing cocktails we were going to do, that was very, very fresh in my mind because we had at least a couple of them that day. But it was a great day, beautiful day on the beach. So again, contributing to the redness that's developing on my face. But so now it would not be sangria if we didn't have some great red wine. Now, traditionally, because it is a Spanish cocktail, we would want something like a Rioja, a Spanish red. But I think, Pinot Noir works very well also because it's fruit forward and it's light bodied, but it's not too sweet. So that's really what you want because we're developing all of these other flavors. You don't want to start off with a very sweet red wine because then you're going to find that all of those other syrups and liqueurs that you've added are going to push it over the edge. So I would say start with something that has good fruit to it, bright kind of cherry notes on the dry.
Oh no!
Side, light in body, and then your flavors like we've done. What happened? Did I freeze?
You're back. You're back.
Did I freeze? I'm back. All right. Sorry about that. I didn't say anything too important. We are going to add our red wine directly onto our pitcher here. A lot of red wine.
That is a hefty glass.
Yeah. So starting to look more like sangria here. Now at this point, you've got 2 options. I'm just going to put a straw in there. Don't ask me for a second cocktail later tonight. It won't make sense. No. You've got 2 options with this. You can either cover this and put it in the refrigerator overnight to marinate, which I know a lot of people know that with sangria, there are a couple benefits to that. The flavors really will meld together, and you give the time for the fruit to actually absorb some of the alcohol, which is kind of that extra little treat. So when you do get that piece of fruit, like we were talking about, it's got a bit of a kick to it. But again, for tonight, Jasmine had a long day. I'm going to add some ice to this, and we're going to serve it up. But again, this cocktail.
Somebody very shortly, so we've got to pour it because a toast is due for our guests.
Oh, absolutely.
It is. It is. This is the.
What's that, Nick?
There he is. Mark Casse, congratulations, sir.
Congrats on the winner.
Thank you.
Never has the winner of Woodbine 6 felt so good as doing it while live on Cocktails and Conversation. And you could get 7 and 8 up tonight as well.
Well, we're happy right now. We'll see. This next one's going to be a little tough, but that was nice. That was the winner for Gary Barber, so that's always good. Gary's been a big supporter of ours for a long, long time.
Now the horse named for Jeremy Piven.
We claimed him, so I'm not sure what he's named for. To be honest, we claimed him last year, so I don't know.
Well, big congratulations.
Right now, I'm just calling him a winner.
Yep. Well, cheers. Cheers,
Mark.
The winner, and you, Mark Casse.
I wish I had sangria. That would be nice. My wife has sangria.
I wish I could send you one. That's the thing that we're lacking here on Cocktails and Conversation. But cheers, Mark.
Virtually.
Hey, Mark, how have you been? How have you been these last few months? How's it been for you guys?
It's been good. I mean, it's crazy. I tell everybody, I've always said, if you ever listen to anything, I always tell everybody training horses is like trying to put a puzzle together. Well, this year's been trying to put a puzzle together with no picture or no edges. It's been crazy. So, but as far as my family's been healthy, there's been positives. We got to spend a lot more time together. We have a wonderful place in Ocala training center. So I do a lot of fishing. I've been throwing a lot of baseball practice, and so it's been good.
That is, and it was something that you and I had spoken about after the announcement that you were elected to the Hall of Fame. Big congratulations there. But you really had found the silver lining amongst all of this, that you get to spend more time at home. So what did, when racing wasn't necessarily as busy as it is now, what would a typical day be like for the Casse household? Fishing and baseball, or any team in there?
So what happened? I actually worked probably harder than because what we brought the majority of our horses to our training center in Ocala. So my day was pretty busy. I usually I wake up about 4:45, 5 o'clock, drink some coffee, catch up on emails. It doesn't get light here very early, so it doesn't get light in Ocala till about 6:45, and we would start training, and we would train to 11:30 or so, and then I would go home, do some work, and when I get a little tired of sitting behind the computer, I go out and fish. I like to fish, so we built about 15 years ago. We built 2 ponds in our front of our house, and I go fish. And then I did something not many people probably can do. It's about a week into it all, I decided that we should build a baseball field. So I built a baseball field, and my son Colby and I would go out and practice every day and hit balls to him and do things. And we'd sneak some of his friends over, as long as we were social distancing. It's easy to social distance on a baseball field. And so we've got a lot of baseball practice. I've caught a lot of bass. I was kidding for a long time. They were social distancing from me, but so it's been good. It's been good. I for me, and I know you guys, normally I probably would have flown 20, 25 times. There was no Louisville, no Kentucky Derby, no Pimlico, no Belmont. But it's okay. I mean, I enjoy that part, but I've enjoyed time with my wife, Tina, and my son. And so it's been good.
We got to get pictures of that baseball field, right, Nick?
Yeah. I mean, having your own baseball field, your own fishing ponds, what's next?
I don't know. I told Colby's pitching coach, who is is a former major league, actually pitched in the World Series, a guy named Trevor Miller. I said, I got bored, and so we built a baseball field. He goes, got to be the first time I've ever heard that. So I'll have to send you some pictures. It's whenever I get frustrated when horses run bad, I go out and drive the tractor around and work on the baseball field or fish.
How much are you looking forward to opening day today? I know my dad's a massive Dodgers fan, so we're looking forward to watching Dodgers Giants a little bit later. I'm sure as much as you love your sport of horse racing, it sounds like you have a big love for baseball too.
No, I do. I love baseball. So my son Colby, his coach in high school is a man named Eric Martinez, and his brother is David Martinez, the coach for the Nationals. Mm-hmm. So we've all become big national fans. We did before they were winning, just because of, I've never actually met Davey, but like I said, it's his brother coaches my son.
That's special.
So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
I heard Dr. Fauci was throwing out the first pitch too at the Nationals game.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, maybe tonight or something. Anyway, sorry, Nick. Baseball conversation doesn't really affect those in the UK, does it?
But I enjoy listening to it. I try and take it in by osmosis. It's a bit like trying to explain cricket to an American. You just have to sort of sit and soak it up and hope that something will go in eventually. And I love people's passion for it. I don't really get baseball yet, but I love the passion for it. And it strikes me that it's one of those sports that if you like it, you really love it. It's not something you just like a bit. You are completely immersed in it. Is that right?
I like it, and but I know a lot of people find it to be a little slow, but I don't understand cricket either. So I understand. I feel your pain there as trying to understand baseball, but. Yeah, I guess you like it. Now, Brittany, are you a baseball fan?
Huge Dodgers fan. My dad is the type of guy that will bring an iPad to a nice restaurant at dinner because he doesn't want to miss them play. So it's been a little rough as a Dodgers fan the past couple of years, but we still love it. Excited to have it back, but really grateful that horse racing has been able to continue through this entire time. Mark, this was something that Nick talked about off of the top of the show. You got your trainer's license when you were, Nick, was it 17? 17
yeah, I couldn't believe it because when I saw you'd been training since the late 70s, I'm like, Mark Casse looks pretty good for someone who's 95. I mean, he's in good shape.
That was my dad's doing. He figured out the only place in North America you could get a trainer's license at 17 was Massachusetts. So we went. My dad used to love. They had these little fairs, and my dad was probably one of the worst horse trainers ever. But he loved it, and he got me up there. I got my license at 17, and so the deal was I ran our training operation. I had this deal where I got out of school at noon, out of high school, and we would train in the afternoon, and I ran my dad's training operation. And the spring of, I want to say 79, I went to Keeneland, and the deal was I was going to train horses for the summer and then go to college. College never came.
Was that your choice though? You loved it that much at college? Like once you got into the game training?
We're not telling my son. I hated school, and I always wanted. I mean, it's funny. My first class in high school, as a senior, was some kind of agriculture, and I used to bring the racing form, and I would read the racing form through the first class. And then at the end of the year, they said agriculture student of the year, Mark Casse. I was like, how could I be the student? The only thing I ever did was read my racing form. So I just always, there was never a time in my life that I didn't want there to be horse racing. So a lot of people don't realize, but in maybe a beginning of the 80s, for a while, I kind of stepped away from it for a while. My ex-wife trained, and I was the general manager for a guy named Harry Mangurian, Mockingbird Farm. 4 years in a row, we had the leading freshman sire in North America, and I was the general manager of that. We had 300 mares. We were the leading breeder for a few years. So I stepped away. I think I was a little burnt out. I mean, I went at it from a young age, and so that's maybe yeah. So I've been training for 40 some years, but there was about 8 or 10 years in there that I didn't do a whole lot of training.
What brought you back, Mark?
Well, I always loved it, and Mr. Mangarian wanted me to go back. He wanted to start having more racehorses. And once I started doing it, we started winning. We were in Canada. I loved the reason I went to Toronto was they run from middle of March till December. And then I could spend the 4 months in Ocala because I love Ocala. I've been in Ocala for 50 some years. And so it worked out good. I could go and do that. And the reason really I came back and started racing more in North America or in the US was because of Norman, my son. He started working for us and he was like, Dad, we got to go back to Kentucky, because he's a Kentucky boy, born in Kentucky. And so we did that. And then I figured out after a little while, if we're going to compete in Kentucky, that we had to train on the dirt because we were mostly training on synthetic. It's very, very tough to go from synthetic to dirt. So that's why I built the training center the way it did.
I'm very enamored of your backdrop this evening, Mark. You're very much on brand with this broadcast. It took you a little while to get that first Breeders' Cup winner, but you knocked out 5 in no time at all after that.
No, the first one was for Gary Barber, Catch a Glimpse, and then I'll never forget that day. It was cold and windy and rainy, but I didn't care. And then the next day, Tepin won. At Keeneland. It was kind of fitting that it happened at Keeneland too, because I did get my trainer's license at 17, but I really won I did win a race. I did win a couple races at the fairs, but I won my first really race at a main track was at Keeneland. I won a $5,000 claiming race. The horse's name was Joe's Coming. And as anybody knows, Keeneland, they have 2 wires. Mm-hmm. And I was going to finish second, but the rider of the horse on the lead pulled up at the wrong wire. He pulled up the first wire, and my rider kept going, and he won by a nose. It took him a 16th of a mile. The other rider was standing up, and my rider was whipping and driving. So Joe's Coming. He won at Keeneland, and that would have been 79, I guess.
Wow. And you take them any way you can, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I've lost them. I lose them. I've lost plenty, other ways too. It's just, yeah. It seems like it's hard to believe I've been doing it this long, and but horse racing's been very good to me. Very good to me. As like in Brittany, my father was so involved. Of course, I lost him a few years back, and so that makes it a little different. But at least he did get to see the Breeders' Cup. I remember coming back because my dad was bedridden for the last couple of years, and I stopped to see him, and I said, "Dad, what'd you think of us winning 2 Breeders' Cup?" He goes, "You were this far from 3."
That seems pretty standard for parents, though.
We Aero Force got beat in the juvenile turf mile, but I mean, my dad was always very proud of me. So, yeah.
And what a special moment this was. I mean, Tepin really captured the imagination of and the hearts of Americans, and I would say, Nick, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but those in the UK as well for what she did in the Queen Anne. This was an epic victory. I mean, can we listen to it sound full? It's just that special.
You're testing our production now, Brittany.
No, I know. I mean, because she's just running away from the rest of the field here. What was she like to have in the barn, Mark, to train, to go through these incredible victories with?
She was, she was unbelievable. You really, there's Colby's a lot bigger now. She was easy. She was easy in that she did everything when you wanted to do it. You wouldn't, if you watched her train every day, you wouldn't necessarily think she was, a superstar. But I didn't realize at the time when we went over to Ascot and won there how tough it really is and how great she had to be to win there. I have, since that victory, like I said, now you watch and you know just how tough it is.
I think as well, we'd become used to, I mean, no one has more admiration than me for what Wesley's done, and as a pioneer to bring horses to Europe. It's so sporting because it's not as though there's a huge financial incentive to do it, but to bring an older horse, a female as well, to run on a straight track, and no one really can see on the television the uphill incline, not something that anybody in most parts of the world are used to beat a decent group of milers and to do it well and to travel so well. It was an amazing performance, and I think it was everything that's great about the sport. It was the romance of the challenge. It was the idea of the world being a smaller place. It was a female against males. It had just about everything, and all power to you guys for doing it and bringing it.
The credit goes to Mr. Masterson because he was the one that was, I want to do it. I want to do it. I'll tell you guys a quick funny story. So, of course, Julian rode her, and so we fly over with Julian and his wife Tina, and I fly, and we get to England, and I don't know. I just took it for granted. I think we all did that Julian had ridden there before and whatever. So I said, Julian, can you show us around England a little bit? We don't know. He goes, I've never been here. We're like, okay. So then I can remember Mr. Masterson saying to him like the day before the race, so how many races have you ridden at Ascot, Julian? I've never ridden at Ascot, he said. So we got in, Norman, Julie and I, we got in a taxi and we drove to Ascot because we wanted to look at it the day before. And so we walked all around it and we're like, okay, do we want to be on the left side? Do we want to be on the right side? Do we want to be in the middle? So we had come up with this brilliant idea that we wanted to go left because she had been running with a rail on her left. And, plus if you're on the right, as you go down the dip there, where they come out of there's a turn there. We thought it was maybe a little softer. Then don't you know, we find out the last day or two that they let horses train, but only on the left side. So we're like, well, that's not, maybe now it's eat up a little. So Julian comes in the paddock. He said, they tell me we're going down the middle. I said, okay. So they all kind of got together. The rider said, we're going down the middle. And he said, okay, we're going down the middle. So it was interesting.
Do you allow yourself to fully celebrate those big victories, the Preakness, the Belmont, the Queen Anne, your Breeders' Cup? I know it can be difficult for trainers because you have to wake up the next day and go back to the barn.
Unfortunately, probably not as much as I should. Normally we win a big race and the next thing I'm worried about is, what I got to do tomorrow. And we've won some big races, and for instance, the Belmont, winning with Sir Winston was a great moment for us. But my wife even had to tell me, she said, you've got to smile. and because I felt I was happy for the farmers and I was happy for Sir Winston, but you have to remember another one of my children got beat. And so I felt bad. It's like you want to be happy for your one son, but you also can't be overjoyed for your other son. So Will had a rough go of it. And, and that's just me. We won, Gary was with me, Gary Barber and Wonder Godot won the Queen's Plate. But we also ran another horse in the race for Stone Street called Telekinesis. And he disappointed me. And I wasn't smiling as big as I should after the race. And Gary's like, you've got to enjoy the victory. But, they're all your kids. So, yeah.
It seems like, and you mentioned War of Will, it seems like he holds a very special place in your heart. What is it about him?
Well, I've always just loved him. He's so beautiful. It's hard to believe when I'm going to say this, because he is a Preakness winner and he is a Grade 1 winner on the turf, but I've never felt like, I think there's even more there. A lot of people don't know too, the things we had a real, and I just never made it public because I just didn't want to, but we got roughed up so much in the Derby, and I was just happy. I was truly just happy that he was safe after the Derby. But with that track, the slop and everything, that the race was extremely hard on him. I never said anything to anybody, but he had some rough days between the Derby and the Preakness. I really didn't decide I was going to run him in the Preakness until the day of the Preakness. I was monitoring him every day, and for him to be able to fight through what he went through in the Derby, come out of that, and to win the Preakness it shows truly how great he is. And then he got hurt a little bit. He's got the string halt, which is a weird deal. That doesn't bother him. But he had the trouble in the Louisiana Derby, and I just, like I said, I didn't realize when we won the Maker's Mark the other day, that only California Chrome and Secretariat have done, won a classic and been able to come back and win a Grade 1 on the turf. So that made me feel good, because that makes him special. He's always been extremely special to me, and you can tell, right? That he's special to me.
Yeah. You definitely allowed yourself a smile when he won the Preakness.
Well,
you could tell.
That was for a lot of reasons, and a lot of people will sit there and debate, and that's fine. But he was going to make a run for it in the Kentucky Derby. I've told, so Norman was standing with me at about the 5/16 pole when we started moving up, and there's Norman right there. He said, "Dad, you're going to win the Kentucky Derby," and
going into
of course that happened. What's that?
Said your horses are going into the gate here.
Oh, okay. I'm watching.
You've got it right up there.
I've got it. I'm good.
Okay, good.
Okay, good, because we don't want you to miss the race.
Okay.
Norm, hello, welcome.
Well, hello there, Brittany.
Quite
Yeah.
Hey,
in our
surprise! Nobody told me Norman was coming on.
We like surprises.
Don't make me cry.
Please make him cry.
Did you enjoy those reminiscences, Norm? Some wonderful moments.
Oh, of course. Anytime we bring up Teppan, I enjoy it. She was such a special filly to everybody, all of our family. And Dad didn't tell the story that I really like when he tells about how we saddled her over in the barns, because they don't do it in the paddock at Ascot like you do over here in North America. And I'm on the valet side, he's on the trainer side, and of course the saddle falls off the side of her on the right-hand side, and it's just one of those moments that we've got our top hats on, and I just will never forget that, just sharing that moment with Dad.
No, it was funny because I went, Norman, of course, we're used to pulling the girth up. So I go to pull the girth. He didn't hold on to the saddle. And so I go like this, and the saddle hits the ground, and she kind of looks back at like, are you stupid or what? You know, she didn't even move. She didn't move. But yeah, I'll always remember that.
I think one of my favorite moments, and Nick, I'm not sure if you did the interview or who did, it was at Del Mar when World Approval won, and it was a pretty emotional moment, I think, both for Norm and Mark. Norm, was that the last Breeders' Cup that you spent together before you went out on your own?
Yeah, that was basically it. It come out earlier that week that I was going to go out on my own, and that, you know, this was my last shot with Dad, helping him condition a Breeders' Cup winner. And I was fairly confident going in that World Approval was going to win. And he obviously rewarded our confidence. But, yeah, it was, you know, that was kind of our swan song, so to speak.
Norman's always more confident than me. One day he said, I think if the horses run good, we could run 1-2 in the bluegrass. He told that to the press, and I said, don't ever do that again.
Dad always tells that story incorrectly. He read it in the Courier Journal, and Jenny Reed misquoted it. She put they could run 1-2, or, and I went on, they could run last or second to last. She didn't put that part. And of course, Dad, still, like, this is 10 years ago, and
I still haven't gotten over it.
And Uncaptured ended up being a pretty good horse too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you guys just seem to have such a fantastic working relationship. But everybody knows, however close you are, it's difficult sometimes to work with your own family. How did you make it work so productively and so well?
You want me to answer that?
Whoever.
Well,
I'm wanting to hear. I want to hear.
No, I mean, not to take anything away from, you know, having a personal relationship with your family or your parents or whatever, but I think it had a lot to do with the fact that he was in one place and I was at the other, so we weren't always on top of each other all the time, and we both respected each other and respected each other's opinion. And I always said, when we talked about it, I'm here, Dad's here, and we meet in the middle, and that's where the magic happened. And I still believe that for sure. Like, if I had to go to the barn every day and Dad was there, I don't know if we would have been able to make it. And that's just the truth. But because we were in two separate places most of the time, it really worked out well.
I agree with that. I agree. And we would, we would always hash out everything and say, this is what I think we need to do. And it definitely made us a stronger team. But yeah, if we'd been together every day, I'm not sure that would have worked.
No, it wouldn't work. But it's fine now. Everything's good. But no, that's what I always thought. I thought, right in the middle was the sweet spot for us.
Norm, do you have a favorite moment or victory shared with your dad over the years?
Just anything. I mean, obviously Tepin is the first one to come to mind, but really I'd say a close second would be Classic Empire when he won the Arkansas Derby, just because he was such a pain in the butt to get there. I mean, it was talking about a complete nightmare all spring, not training, to him going to Ocala and training up there, and it just everything about it, to have this super talented horse that you want to win the Kentucky Derby. That's everything. And you have the horse that can do it for the first time legitimately, and he's not, doing what he needs to do, and then kind of dealing with the haters going into the Arkansas Derby and stuff. And then for him to kind of redeem himself, that's always going to be a close second for me.
He was a notorious bad boy, wasn't he?
I actually had hair before Classic Empire.
Yeah, I had a full head of hair before Classic Empire.
Oh, Classic Empire.
No, he wasn't. You know what, Brittany? What's funny about him was he wasn't mean-spirited. He was a sweetheart. You could have sent a 2-year-old girl in the stall and you'd been comfortable with it. He outsmarted all of us. He didn't want to do things, and he didn't do it. Like a lot of horses, you can persevere and make them do things. He was like, you know what, I'm not training today, guys. Sorry. And it was very, very frustrating.
I would think that would make the victories even more rewarding.
So that's what it was. I mean, probably I would say, Norman, I would think the Arkansas Derby win with Classic Empire was probably our greatest victory of all time, because you just don't know what we went through.
No, it really was special. It really was.
Yeah. I mean, Julian driving up, Norman and Julian driving up, leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning to get to Ocala. Bob, I get a call from Bob Bafford. He's in Dubai. And he says, you know what you need to do with that horse is work him out of the gate every time. I said, Bob, that's what we're doing. But it doesn't always work, because you could break him from the gate, and he may decide he didn't want to come out.
No, you remember the hopeful.
Oh, yeah, the hopeful. He came out until he stopped. He just went out.
We knew. I've never went over to the and Dad's right. I'm ultra confident most of the time, but going over for the hopeful, I thought, how cool is this? We just won the spin away yesterday. We're going to win the hopeful today. How cool is this? And when you know it, the horse doesn't even come out of the gate. How bad is that?
People don't know what goes into it. They see the win on the day and think about all of that in lead up to it. Shayla Peru's watching, and she says it's stressful.
Yeah, it is. I do. I laugh sometimes and think about people just don't realize, all the things that are behind the scene to get to these races, and very seldom are they easy. There's always something. Like I said, I never made it public, but to get, and maybe the second biggest victory I would say, and Norman wasn't part of this, was winning the Preakness with War of Will, because he came out of the Derby so footsore that it was amazing. And that's maybe, so what you saw, obviously winning, we just lost the Preakness with Classic Empire. He got beat a nose or whatever. Until this, I will go down but Classic Empire was the best horse in the Kentucky Derby. He got wiped out right from the start, and he was the only horse that closed. But then we got beat ahead or so in the Preakness. But with all the worries of War of Will's feet, his sore feet after the Derby, and then almost falling, and for that to be able to win the Preakness was like, yeah. The only disappointing part was that Norman wasn't there.
That's a fabulous
I
picture.
still need to get that picture printed up and framed. That's cool.
Doesn't look too happy about that.
Yeah,
No, that was after World Approval won the 4-star Dave.
Oh, yeah.
He had lost like 50 races in a row at Saratoga. So.
Yeah. That happens a lot. That happens all the time. That does.
Mark, I wanted to talk a little bit more about you and War of Will, because you've mentioned him 2 or 3 times now, and every time you do, you can see what the horse means to you. And the good news is that, as you said earlier, we might just be scratching the surface. Now, if he's chiseled out a tiny piece of your heart, he could take the whole lot by the time he's done. What's his future, do you think, now? Because you've got this whole myriad of possibilities. It must be quite fun to decide how you could mix and match this for the rest of the year and the rest of his career.
Well, I think we're just going to stay on the grass. I mean, you have to understand, this is something that Gary and I talk about all the time. Gary's very involved in this, and so many things, a lot of great things have happened because of Gary. I often say, look, luckily, I thought War Will should have won the juvenile turf. Thank goodness he didn't, because if he had, he may have never won the Preakness. But right now, the plan is to go to the Woodbine Mile and go to the Breeders' Cup Mile turf. That's the plan right now. That can change.
You know how trainers love to call audibles.
Oh, not just the trainers.
Yeah.
I love
Have
Gary. One thing about it, that man thinks out of the box, and he is. I have the saying: if you're afraid to step off first, you can't steal second. He goes a long ways off first. He's not afraid to. I love him, but he's not afraid. That's for sure.
So great for the sport. So great.
Yeah. We have I talk to him every day, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. I said to him on occasion, I think I talk to you more than I talk to my wife.
See, some trainers don't much care for owners who get their opinion in first and tell you where to run and want to discuss everything and be really involved. But it seems as though both of you quite appreciate that side of it. You like the cut and thrust, the debate, the what are we going to do now? I'm sure it can be a pain, but you don't mind engaging with it.
I don't find it a pain, and I think too many trainers. I think too many trainers do it the wrong way. Look, I've had Mr. Oxley tell me, he goes, Mark, I love winning races, but I love it all. I love the decision making. I love all those kind of things, and I think that when we don't involve our owners in those kind of deals, I don't think it's right. I think it was Mr. Oxley one time when we first started training for him. I said, well, I'd like to know your opinion. He goes, that's the first time anybody's ever asked me that. and because it's a team effort. And I mean, I can tell you, I have many, many conversations with Mrs. Weber. She's been doing this for 50 years. She has her opinions. And my wife says it best, I believe. She said, it's our job to put the beacons out there. It's their job. It's their plane to fly. So if they choose, you tell them where you think they should fly, and they choose to fly the plane somewhere else. But you know what? It's their horse. It's their money. And look, if you have racehorses, you love the game, because you're not doing it for a business, because this is not a business. It's they call it the sport of the kings for a reason.
It's a passion. Norm, how's that transition for you? Because you could speak to a lot of assistant trainers that don't have the desire to go out on their own, because that is a whole nother layer to being a trainer. It's speaking with the owners and dealing with that part of it. How was the transition for you, and do you enjoy that aspect of it?
I think you have to enjoy it, and I've kind of went and with the same mindset that Dad does. I speak to most of my owners pretty candidly, and we discuss things, and I lay it out for them. I say, here's A, B, and C. What do you think? And we'll agree, or we'll agree to disagree, and then we'll come up with a plan. But I think, as often as you lose in horse racing, which happens much more often than winning, it's easier to accept it when at least you guys came up with a game plan together and hatch out a plan together. So I do like that. Sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you make the wrong decision, but at least you made it together.
Yeah, we have so many questions coming in, Nick, and we would be remiss not to ask. Veteran99 Norm wants to know, do you have any exciting 2-year-olds?
I have a filly tomorrow in at Ellis in the 6th race for Mary Lou Whitney. Her name's Malibu Bird. If she runs the way she breezes, she could be any kind. So this is so we'll see what happens.
That is the single best answer to a question like that I have ever heard. Because anytime you interview any trainer, you go, oh, have you got any nice 2-year-olds? And they go, yeah, I've got a few, not named yet. I probably need a bit further, later in the season. Straight out, tomorrow runs.
We'll see how she runs. I'm very, very excited about it, but I know how the game is. She could come out and be a dud, but she has all the tools to be any type of horse. So hopefully, when we put her in a race, all she has to do is perform the way she's been training in the morning, and she could be any kind. So I'm very, very excited tomorrow.
I see the confidence you're talking about, Mark. I like it.
Yeah. I was a kid. If you ask me, I got a few horses, but they're not named. I think the word is out on her anyway, so it's kind of it really doesn't make any difference. So we'll just see what happens. We ran a filly the other day that filly called Beautiful Memories that broke her maiden by 10. I mean, it's Mr. Oxley. I still think she's a really good horse, and she stumbled coming out of the gate at 1-2 in the Schuylerville and didn't run. It actually was pulled up.
Yeah.
So I mean, this game will eat you alive if you let it.
Somebody asked about Beautiful Memories earlier in the show, and I was going to ask, somebody was going to ask if Beautiful Memories was okay, and I meant to. Yeah, here we are, Dorian. How is Beautiful Memories doing after the stumble?
She's good, actually. She's good. Right now, we haven't lost any confidence in her. We're going to head for the spinaway.
Good.
Maybe run against Norman's filly.
That's the game plan. So we'll see.
Just open up.
Who's your filly by, Norman?
Huh?
Who's your filly by?
Malibu Moon.
Oh, yeah, you said that. I'm sorry.
That's the only thing that I'm a little worried about, because we've had a lot of good Malibu Moons that we thought were really good, and then they just didn't pan out. Now, we've had a lot of good ones that ended up being.
Well, we had Perspective. Perspective was Malibu Moon.
And Danzig Moon. So
Danzig Moon was.
Danzig Moon.
Funny story about Danzig Moon. We worked him for the Derby, and we worked him with this filly, and the filly kind of outworked him. This is like a week before the Derby, and they said, well, what about this filly? And Norman said it, and I said, well, that filly's pretty good. It was Teffin.
Oh.
That was the maddest Dad was ever mad at, or he's never been that mad at me for anything else other than that, because I came up with the breezing combination. I'm like, Dad, there's only one horse in the entire barn that can work with Danzig Moon, and this needs to be the big work, and it's Teffin. He's like, I don't know, Norman. She's so much faster than him away from the pole. Mr. Oxley and Mrs. Oxley come to watch this horse breeze. It's the only time they've ever been to the barn the entire time we've been affiliated with them. And Teffin blows his doors off and Dad is calling me by the time they pass the 16th hole. Like, it was a nightmare, but it worked out for both of them. He ran really well in the Derby. He got beat like 4 or 5 lengths to American Pharoah, and we know what Teffin went on to do. So it worked out.
So he might have been right. He might have been right.
I love this though. I feel like they could have their very own show. The stories are unbelievable. I mean, Mark, you've got to be so proud of your son and what he's already done in a short amount of time at the racetrack. Probably no surprise.
I am. Don't make me cry. I told you not to do that.
Well,
it's my goal in every interview. I'm not gonna lie.
Let's flip the coin a little though, Norm, because your father now is in an extraordinary position of being a member of both the Canadian Hall of Fame and now an inductee into the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame in the United States, which is a pretty remarkable double. That must make you enormously proud.
Well, obviously you're proud, and I'm proud of the fact that I helped him get there, to be honest. So, like, I feel like I'm just much a part of that as him and anybody else that's part of that team, because we both know, or we all sitting here know, that that's a team effort. Dad was obviously the captain, and he ran the ship for a very, very long time, but it took a lot of people behind the scenes to get him there, and I was a small part of it, but I'm proud of the fact, and I'll be there when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I'm very proud of that.
I agree with that 100%. I would not be going into the Hall of Fame without Norman's help, my wife Tina's help. She's been, and of course, there's so many people. My dad, but definitely I wouldn't be. And believe me, I've thought about it many, many times. Probably never told Norman that, but yeah, I wouldn't be going in there if it wasn't for Norman.
Here's something I wanted to ask you. You wear your success pretty lightly. Like I don't know how you feel it, but you wear it lightly. You don't come across as someone who blows their own trumpet at all. I wondered, back in '79 when you got that license out for the first time, if somebody had said to you, do you know one day you'll be in the Hall of Fame and the Hall of Fame in Canada as well, and you'd have had a ton of Breeders' Cup winners and horses of the year. How much of that was in your head as a young man?
Well, so when I was about 10 or 11, we would go to Saratoga every year, and my dad would take me to the Hall of Fame. And I told my dad that I was going to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, did I believe it? Probably not. I really didn't think that, I didn't think that I deserved to be in the Hall of Fame until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I never even, it was a dream of mine to be in the Hall of Fame. I would say that, and the only, if we could win the Kentucky Derby, then I'm pretty, my bucket list as far as horse racing goes is fulfilled. I would like, then to see Norman go on and achieve those things as well. But the Hall of Fame is very special to me, and it's special to me because of the relationship I had with my father and what we talked about, like I said, at such a young age. But like I said, Nick, I really didn't think until we started winning some Breeders' Cups that I even deserved to be in there. And if you know me very well, you know that I don't want anything I don't deserve. I work hard, but I don't want to be given anything. And I feel now that I deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Words to live.
I think we need to drink to that at this point.
I agree.
And I think you definitely deserve a cold beverage, and the man to provide it.
There it is.
Wow.
That.
There's the iconic photo taken right before Classic Empire took all Dad's hair.
What year was this, do we think?
Looks like Norman's about 4.
Yeah, so that's probably 86 or 87, Brittany.
I love it, and thanks to the dads for bringing us into the sport. It is such a family affair, whether blood related or people that just introduced you to the sport. And you guys I've loved listening to both of you and your love of the sport and doing it together. But we know behind every great man, there's always a great woman. You've spoken plenty about your wife, Tina. Norm, I know one Gabby Gaudette, one of my good friends, your lovely wife. Is she there to join us for a cocktail? Will she join us?
She's making me dinner. I don't know if she's going to come over here or not. Let's see. She's grabbing the dog. It looks like there's going to be a special appearance here. Hold on.
There she is.
Hey, there she is. Hey, Gabby.
Look at these muscles.
Boy, Waylon's picked up some pounds through the COVID.
Oh no.
With a
Look,
nice-
I talking about the dog, not me, right?
No, yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about Waylon, not Gabby.
Right?
No, I didn't say y'all.
Okay.
No, Gabby, you look perfect.
Quarantine's been a little tough.
It's called Quarantine 15. That's what it is. But let's round it out with a drink. Shall we have Mark take us away with our final cocktail of the evening?
Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. Norm, I got to tell you, you already have me beat because they've been trying for 15 episodes to get my wife on camera, and she's still eluding it. So you already have me beat in one episode.
Mine too, to be fair.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, Norm, it's almost as if your wife appears on television on a regular basis. It's amazing.
All right, guys. So I know we're in the warmer months here. When I think of simple, refreshing, classic cocktails, the Tom Collins always comes to mind. It's a super delicious drink. It's also just really, really easy to make. Traditionally, it's gin, lemon juice, simple syrup, and club soda. But there's a really funny story about the possible explanation for how the drink got its name. So a lot of people believe, and I'm not making this up, that the name of the drink came from the great Tom Collins hoax of 1874. All right, let's hop in our time machine. We're going to go back in time. This is how the joke would work. So I would go up to someone like Nick Luck, and I would say, Nick, there is a gentleman named Tom Collins down the street at a saloon, and he is saying awful, disparaging things about you, none of which are true,
Standard.
I think. But either way, he's ruining your reputation. So you need to go seek him out and set him straight. And you, Nick, being a prideful person, would try to find Mr. Collins and confront him, but you wouldn't be able to do that because Tom Collins was not real. So this was the whole joke. It was a practical joke that actually circulated around the New York City area back in 1874, and people really bought into it, so much so that local newspapers were actually publishing these articles warning the public of this fictional villain, Tom Collins. Now, of course, they were never able to identify this person because he didn't exist, but the drink that we know as the Tom Collins bears his name. As you'll see, the glass that we even serve this style of drink is called the Collins glass. But one of the best things about the Collins family of drinks is that we can use pretty much any base spirit that we want, which works out great for us. We're going to use Tito's Handmade vodka as our base and add some fresh raspberries for a seasonal twist. So
I feel very good right now. Look at this group.
This is a great group. I was going to say that's a tough act to follow because those stories were so great. I was thinking about my Tom Collins hoax story, and I was like, I don't think that's going to match up to these great racing stories, but I was going to do my best. All right, so we are going to start.
I mean, to be fair, we are a good-looking bunch. Brittany's just letting the side down a shade, but we'll get over it.
Sorry.
Oh boy,
Pop me out.
that one. So guys, let's start with some fresh raspberries here. We're going to put that directly into our cocktail shaker. As Nick knows, this is going to be sort of a forceful muddle. Here's the thing with berries like raspberries, they're so soft, I guess, that you can sometimes even get away not muddling and just shaking it with ice. And oftentimes that'll do the trick. But depending on the ripeness, I'll let you make that call. So now we're going to build sort of a vodka sour on top of this. We're going to add 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice. Nick, you see I'm back to measuring, so I didn't go completely off the rails with that first drink.
You're okay. You're looking pretty sound.
All right, so far so good. All right, let's balance out that citrus with a little simple syrup. I'm not even going to say it. You guys know how often these pop up in cocktails, so it's a great ingredient to have.
Honestly, seriously though, Mark,
yes.
For people who haven't tuned in for the last 14 episodes and have just stumbled across us, simple syrup is just water and sugar, right? Boiled up.
Equal parts sugar and water. It's as simple as take a cup of sugar, cup of water, put it in a saucepan, just heat it up until it dissolves, and then you're good to go. The average 1-to-1 simple syrup, meaning 1 part sugar to 1 part water, will last about 2 weeks. If you increase the ratio of sugar to water, so you do what's called a 2-to-1 syrup, 2 parts sugar to 1 part water, that'll last for about a month. So again, you're going to have to adjust your ratios when you're making your drinks. But if you're someone that doesn't really make cocktails that often, I would recommend going for the 2-to-1 because it's going to last you longer. So yeah, but no, thank you for bringing that up, Nick. I do forget that sometimes we have to go back to the basics. So of course, we've covered a lot. When I'm thinking about the cocktails that we're going to do each week, it's amazing when I think back on all the ones that we've covered so far in this series. So it really has been a kind of a trip down the rabbit hole in many senses, but it's been a lot of fun.
30 cocktails, I'm being told. 30 cocktails you have created and made on this show. That's remarkable. Norm, what is your drink of choice?
Just beer right now. Bourbon and beer. I don't have any. I'm not drinking right now, but I mean, if I'm pretty simple person, so either bourbon or beer.
Bourbon or beer.
What kind of beer do you like, Mark? You like a lager guy, IPA? We were talking about IPAs earlier. Yep.
Me, I just drink light beer. I drink 1 beer a night. That's it. Norm and I are pretty simple.
Like especially in this heat. I don't know about you guys, but in the New York area here, we've got this hot and humid. Ah, there you go.
I'm with
hot and humid weather.
Some grapes.
That's what we call that.
Gabby and I love the red wine.
Yes, we do.
All right, so guys,
you like all wine, I think.
But I'm more if I had to choose, it's white wine until the sun goes down, and then it switches to red.
Okay, words to live by. It's good. Before I start shaking this cocktail, so I've added 2 ounces of Tito's vodka. Before I start shaking this, Nick, do you have some stats that you want to read off? I think this might be a fairly long one.
I have, according to the great Wikipedia, we all know how reliable it is. The Mark Casse major horse race wins. Yeah.
So, Mark, the deal on this is that I have to keep shaking the cocktail until Nick finishes reading all of your amazing wins here. So I have a feeling that I'm going to be going for a long time. I'm bracing myself for it. Nick, give me the countdown.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2. Get that wrist action going, Mark. All right, Metropolitan Handicap, Stephen Foster Handicap twice. Alcibiades Stakes, the Just the Game Stakes, the First Lady Stakes, the Jenny Wiley Stakes, the Pimlico Special, the United Nations Stakes, the Belmont Oaks Invitational, the Spinaway Stakes, the Breeders' Maturity Stakes. I'm going to go slowly this week just for fun. The Edgewood Stakes, the Gulfstream Park Oaks, the Arkansas Derby, the Dixie Handicap, the 4-Star Dave. We heard about that earlier. The Del Mar Oaks, I was listening. The QE2 Challenge Cup Stakes, the Laps YN, the Risen Star, the Len Stakes in Canada 4 times, the Natalma Stakes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. The Grey Stakes 3 times, the Woodbine Oaks 3 times, the Wonderwear Stakes 4 times, the Bison City Stakes 3 times, the Summer Stakes 3 times, the Nassau Stakes twice, the Dance Smartly Stakes once, the Woodbine Mile twice, Canadian Triple Crown with the Queen's Plate twice, the Prince of Wales Stakes 1, 2, 3, 4 times, the Breeders' Stakes once, the Queen Anne Stakes with Tepin, Breeders' Cup Mile twice, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Breeders' Cup the Preakness Stakes with War of Will, the Great War of Will, the Belmont Stakes, the Sovereign Award for Outstanding Trainer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times, I think. A Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame, the National Horse Racing Museum Hall of Fame, inductee, trainer of Catch a Glimpse, Class Again by Alexi Lou, Steely Hill, Sir Winston, Tepin, Uncaptured, War of Will, Wonder Good Oak, and Norman Casse.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm going to have to pay you a gym membership, Mark. I've been saying that for the especially prolific trainers here.
Really, cheers to those accomplishments and continued success for both of you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Cheers.
So
At this point, guys, I'm just straining this cocktail over some fresh ice in our glass here. Because we do have some muddled ingredients like the berries, we're going to fine strain this. So that means we're going to pour it from this one strainer, one tin, through this fine strainer into our glass. And as always, when we have carbonated ingredients, we're going to add that right at the end. So I'm going to add that club soda to top this. You're going to see you get a beautiful pink color here. I'll show you in just a second.
I liked the history behind it. Nick, a lot of people are supporting you if you ever get into it with somebody named Tom Collins.
I was going to say, maybe Nick should go check down the street at the local bar and see if there's anyone talking some smack about him. I don't know.
I think I need to get down to the gym. Unless Tom Collins is 4 foot.
All right, guys. That is our refreshing vodka raspberry Collins. Cheers,
It's a
guys.
thing of beauty, Mark Tubridy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mark Tubridy, ladies and gentlemen, for the 15th consecutive week he's put up with us. And this week, we managed to keep a straight face.
We did well. We did well.
Thank you, Mark.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
This has been so much fun.
It really has. Gents, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you for sharing so much with us, and all the best for the rest of the season. Mark, you've got eyes on another race at Woodbine by the looks of it.
Yeah, I just watched. We ran 5th.
We must not think luck. He won when he wasn't on the show with us. I'm sorry.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate it. You've had runners all night, and you've been talking to us, so you know it really means a lot.
Well, enjoyed
us.
Enjoyed it.
You've taken the time out, and well, I mean, I'll never get let back into the country at this rate, but I hope I see you soon. I'll probably see you at Royal Ascot before I see you in the States.
I don't know. They're not letting us in, so I don't know. But we'll see.
Let's all
you'll be back.
Each other at Keeneland this year for the Breeders' Cup. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Sounds good.
Norman Casse, Mark Casse, thank you guys so much. Thank you very much for watching. Brittany, see you next week. Episode 16.
Yeah.
Next week, when we will try and match it. But we say it every week. It's very difficult to do. The caliber of our guests has been so outstanding from all of us here on Cocktails and Conversation. Until next time, and there will be a next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.